me at all. They also need to look at how they're talking about women. I mean, this bromance and this masculinity stuff, I mean, it borders on edgy to the point that it's going to make women uncomfortable. You know, you've got affiliated PACs that are doing commercials about calling Kamala the C word, or you had speakers at Madison Square Gardens, you know, referring to her and her pimps. That is not the way to win women.
By the way, we should point out none of the C words that Gretchen was talking about.
Please, thank you for that clarification, Andrew.
An Elon Musk PAC is put out a commercial using a very derogatory.
Which they pulled back.
Oh, well.
Yeah,
okay.
I know. But with Nikki Haley, I mean, this will go down if Trump loses this election. That will go down as one of his greatest mistakes, is not getting Nikki Haley out on the campaign trail. She's actually the one who's putting herself out there saying she would do it, which I know surprised a lot of people. Yeah, and he won't do it.
Well, the first mistake was he probably should have made her vice presidential nominee. I think that would have helped him a lot, but that would have been a different Donald Trump, right?
All right, guys, so we got to talk about Nimrata Haley, who once again has backstabbed former President Trump, this time by running to Fox News to boohoo, whine, and cry about the Trump campaign embracing masculinity and bromance too much. Yes, this is what Nikki Haley went on Fox News to complain about, and I have a big problem with what Nikki Haley's doing because she's playing a very cynical political game that I don't like, and it must be called out for what it is, because this woman surely is going to try to run for president in 2028, and her constant undermining of the Trump campaign while pretending to be a supporter is a part of her strategy to have her cake and eat it too for her next presidential run. And this is something that must be called out, because this is one of the things I hate the most about politicians, when they play slimy games like the one that Nikki Haley is currently playing. And I want to talk about it, but before we get into it, we have to have a word from the sponsor of this video, Noble Gold. Are you worried about the future of the U.S. economy? With so much uncertainty in the air, it is natural to fret about the security of your retirement savings. However, there's one asset that stands the test of time, and that is gold. For centuries, gold has been a hedge against market volatility and economic instability. With a gold IRA from Noble Gold Investments, you can harness the power of precious metals in order to secure your financial future. By rolling over your existing IRA or 401k into a self-directed gold IRA, you can enjoy the potential for long-term growth and stability. Diversify your portfolio with a tangible asset that has real value. Setting up a gold IRA with Noble Gold Investments has never been easier with its streamlined process and expert guidance. This election year, do not let the volatility and uncertainty keep you up at night. Vote for the timeless safety of gold and silver in 2024. And Noble Gold Investments will give you up to 10 1-ounce silver Trump coins or a 10-ounce silver American flag bar if you open a qualified account. Go to noblegoldinvestments.com now. That is noblegoldinvestments.com. And just remember, there's a risk with every investment, and there's no guarantee of any kind.
With Donald Trump, we know what we're going to get. We lived the economy under Donald Trump. We know how strong he was on the border. We know how energy dominant we were. And then we also know what our national security looked like. And so I don't agree with Trump 100% of the time, but I don't agree with Kamala Harris on anything.
You know, the Harris campaign is utilizing some Republicans who've come to support her, including former Congresswoman Liz Cheney. Clearly, a lot of analysts think they're going after voters who supported you in the primary. The Associated Press says, as Democrats court Haley supporters, the former UN ambassador is still waiting to hear from Trump. When was the last time you talked to the former president?
Last time I talked to him was back in June.
So are you surprised that you haven't been deployed out to campaign, or have you volunteered to go out and campaign for him directly?
I mean, they're very aware that we're on standby. They know that we would be there to help. I've helped with some fundraising letters and text messages and those types of things. So we've done that. But look, we're on the same team. It is their campaign's decision on what he needs in these last final days. It does not bother me at all. I think they need to do what they need to do to get across the finish line. I just think that they need to focus primarily on who it is they're talking to. You've got Americans who are absolutely going to vote for Trump. You've got Americans who are absolutely not going to vote for Trump. And then you've got a percentage in the middle who like Trump policies but don't like his style. That is what they need to focus on. So when you look at these things, it has got to be a story of addition. This is not a time to have anyone criticize Puerto Rico or Latinos. This is not a time for them to get overly masculine with this bromance thing that they've got going. 53% of the electorate are women. Women will vote. They care about how they're being talked to, and they care about the issues. They need to remember that. This is a time of discipline, and this is a time of addition. There's no reason to have a comedian at an election campaign event that had so much energy and so many good issues. Why have a comedian that separates people? This isn't about people being sensitive. I mean, Puerto Ricans, that's personal for them. They take that personally. So they were right to denounce the comedian. They need to go and tell Puerto Ricans how much, they do value them. They need to tell Latinos that, but they also need to look at how they're talking about women. I mean, this bromance and this masculinity stuff, I mean, it borders on edgy to the point that it's going to make women uncomfortable. You've got affiliated PACs that are doing commercials about calling Kamala the C word, or you had speakers at Madison Square Gardens, referring to her and her pimps. That is not the way to win women. That is not the way to win people who are concerned about Trump's style.
Yeah, so what you have here is a clear example of Nikki Haley acting as a double agent. Now, I want to address a couple things, okay, about what she said. One, about her campaigning on behalf of Trump. Now, I know some people may disagree with me on this, but this is something I said a long time ago, and I kind of stand by it because we still have a few days until the election happens. Nikki Haley should be out there campaigning on behalf of Trump, not for the people who are already going to vote for Trump no matter what, but because she does have a significant amount of people in this country who claim to support her, that did vote for her, who are the type of voter that may be persuaded by somebody like Nikki Haley coming out and campaigning on behalf of Trump, not just going on Fox News and giving backhanded lip service to Trump, in which she says, well, yeah, you should vote for Trump, but also Trump embraces masculinity too much. I mean, it's... Anyways, I'm saying this because, yes, women are a demographic that we have to cut into a little bit, right, in order to win, okay? It is a demographic that I am worried about, and Nikki Haley knows that it's an important demographic. So somebody like her who can appeal to those women who may be uncomfortable with Trump, the fact that she's not on the campaign trail tells you everything you need to know about whether or not she wants Trump to win. And don't sit here and try to tell me, oh, well, Trump needs to reach out to her and ask her to do this and to do that. I'm not entirely sure that what Nikki Haley is saying is true in the sense that, well, I'm going to stand by. If they ask me to do it, then I'm going to do it. Nah, I don't believe it's that simple. Because Nikki Haley is a neocon just like Liz Cheney. And her biggest problem with Trump is Trump's foreign policy, specifically when it comes to the war in Ukraine and how he's going to handle that. And Nikki Haley already made it clear that if Trump wants her support, her actual real support, okay, not just the lip service, right? If she wants her real support, then he's going to have to essentially become a neocon on Ukraine, right? He's going to have to support the never-ending war between Russia and Ukraine. She's already said this. And Trump clearly is not embracing that. He's clearly not going that route. So Nikki Haley, I don't think that she's not campaigning on behalf of Trump because Trump didn't ask her to do so. I think that she's not campaigning on behalf of Trump because she just doesn't agree with his foreign policy. And she's also playing the political game of not trying to be too attached to Trump just in case he loses. Because if he loses, then when she runs in 2028, she can say, well, I didn't really support Trump like that. I didn't campaign for him. I wasn't on the campaign trail. And I only endorsed him because I had to. That was just an RNC promise that I made, and I kept my promise. That's it. Even though we know that promises don't really mean anything from Nikki Haley because she promised not to run against Trump in the first place, but she did it anyways, okay? But that's what she'll say if Trump loses, right? She'll basically say, I wasn't really MAGA. Like, I really wasn't on board with it. I was warning the country about him the whole time. And people didn't listen to what I said when I said that if Trump is the nominee, then we have Kamala Harris as president. And I was right. That is literally what she's going to say, right? I know this for a fact, okay? But if Trump wins, then she'll turn around and say, oh, well, I supported him. I endorsed him. And I was a part of the reason why he won, right? That is what she'll say in order to appeal to the base, right? To make her case. So again, she's essentially trying to play both sides here while actively undermining Trump, hoping that he loses, right? That's what she actually hopes, is that he loses, because if she wanted him to win, she would not come out here and to say the things that she's saying on national television, basically trying to say that his campaign is too masculine, playing into the sexism trope that the mainstream liberal media and the Democrats have been using against President Trump and his campaign. And she knows exactly what she's doing, because this woman only goes on national television to talk about what's currently happening when the media is boohoo, whining, and crying bigotry against the Trump campaign. Like, for example, the last time she talked about this was when Kamala Harris first got into the race and the whole DEI hire stuff was in the news, right? This is what the mainstream liberal media was complaining about. So she goes on Fox News and does the same thing that she just did and basically criticizes the Trump campaign for how they're criticizing Kamala Harris. And she does this because she knows that the mainstream liberal media is going to take what she says and is going to project it to their audience and use her words against Trump as proof and evidence. CCC, even Nikki Haley, a Republican woman, even her, even she says that Trump is sexist and that there's too much masculinity in bromance.
But they also need to look at how they're talking about women. I mean, this bromance and this masculinity stuff, I mean, it borders on edgy to the point that it's going to make women uncomfortable.
Well, I can point to another point that Nikki Haley was talking about, where women feel uncomfortable sometimes when Trump talks about them, to them, especially after the overturning of Roe. But at this women's town hall that was hosted by Fox, and it was the most luxurious and comfortable environment for him. He was not going to get a hard question. He was not going to get someone who disagreed with him. He was not going to be held accountable on anything. And he was asked about IVF. And in the course of 30 seconds, well, he starts out by saying, I'm the father of IVF, and as sort of a joke, but everyone was like, and then he starts talking about how a very attractive senator, very, hot woman called him, is what his insinuation was. To teach him about IVF, and now he knows so much about IVF. I mean, I don't know how disconnected you could be from the very voters who are scared to death, people who depend on IVF to be able to have a family, and of course, the health care they need.
Yeah, so Nikki Haley knows what she's doing. She knows the game that she's playing. She knows that everything that she says on Fox News is going to be projected and weaponized by the liberal media against Trump. She knows that, and that's why she's doing it. That's why she's doing it. She's trying to present it as, well, I'm just trying to help him out. I'm just trying to give him good advice. And it's like, okay, well, if that's the case, then you need to keep that to yourself. You need to actually get in contact with the Trump campaign, which I'm sure she can, right? I'm sure she can, and say, hey, you need to tone down the rhetoric, or you need to do this or do that, right? If that's how you really feel. But you're not helping by going on Fox News and basically telling the world that you think that the campaign is being too masculine, when that's something that you could have said behind closed doors. You didn't have to go on Fox News and say that. And what Nikki Haley says matters. And I know a lot of people think it doesn't matter, right? Nobody cares about what Nikki Haley has to say. But I'm not looking at it from my perspective, right? I'm looking at it from the perspective of those who lean right, who are those kind of people who are like, I don't know about Trump, or the women that may be uncomfortable with it. If she actually has an effect, and it may be marginal, but still, every vote counts, right? With those people, it may have an effect. It might have an effect, and that's something that it really bothers me. If you know how crucial those voters are, which she claims that she does, right? Then why is it that you would actively try to undermine the Trump campaign with those voters in public instead of going to him privately and saying, hey, I think that you're doing this incorrectly, right? If you actually wanted him to win, that's what you would be doing. And another thing that really bothers me about all this is that it's totally fine and okay to complain about too much masculinity, right? But you never hear people complain about the Democrats and how they're too feminine, right? How they are not concerned about men, okay, or how they talk to men. Because if you listen to how the left talks about men, I would say that it's pretty offensive the way that the left talks about men.
But, you know, we can't poll people's hearts and we can't see into people's hearts. And so when we're looking at these polls and we're looking at who is voting for Trump, you've got 53% of white women that voted for him in 2020. We've got to reach those women. We've got to reach those ridiculous, crazy black men that did vote for Trump. We've got to reach those people. We've got to reach.
So there's this clip going viral online of a dozen women being asked the following question. Do we need men? Most answered very quickly, no. And only one said she thought women needed a man in their lives, only one. But when men were asked a similar question, do we need women, most of them said yes. So why do you think that is?
Because men are useless. I mean, and by the way, I want to differentiate between straight men and gay men, because I think I would die without gay men. Nobody can gossip like gay men. Nobody can help you accessorize like gay men. Nobody can help you keep you from doing harm to yourself like gay men.
Actually, it was said by an Australian social activist, Irina Dunn. She said, a woman without a man is like a fish without a bicycle. I mean, we love you guys, but the truth of the matter is that we could function without the bicycle.
Yeah, so these are all Democrat Party surrogates, right, on national television. Let's be clear. They're all spokeswomen for the Democrat Party, right? That is what The View is. Is there any show on national television that trashes women the same way that The View trashes men? Is there any show, like, for example, The Five on Fox News, right? Is there any show on Fox News that openly trashes women the same way that The View trashes men? I don't think I've ever seen a segment like that on Fox News, and I don't think you would ever see a segment like that because of the amount of backlash that Fox News would get for platforming that type of rhetoric against women, where you say that, well, women are useless, right? We don't need women, right? How do you think that will go over? You have the Kamala campaign super PACs, okay, so people that are aligned with Kamala Harris, because, again, they complain about Elon Musk running ads on behalf of Trump, right? But, again, you have this Kamala-aligned super PAC out here running ads telling women, hey, it's okay to lie to your husband. As if it would be okay for Republicans or anybody aligned with Trump running ads telling men it's okay to lie to your wife. Do you think that would go over well? Because, again, this is what the Kamala campaign and their super PACs, this type of messaging they're putting out there.
Your turn, honey.
In the one place in America where women still have a right to choose, you can vote any way you want, and no one will ever know.
Did you make the right choice?
Sure did, honey.
Remember, what happens in the booth stays in the booth. Vote Harris Walls. Vote Common Good is responsible for the contents of this ad.
But all I hear about is, oh, it's so bad how men talk about women, and you got to be careful how you talk about women. Although, at the same time, I'm also hearing about how strong these women allegedly are, right? They're allegedly so strong, but also at the same time, they're so weak that they can't be criticized at all, right? Any criticism of them is a form of bigotry and hate, right? That Trump's rally was too masculine. But, again, Kamala Harris and her women's groups and stuff like that, that's not too feminine. Again, when they're out here talking about taking down the patriarchy and, you know, how men are trying to oppress them and all this other stuff, that's not too feminine. They don't need to worry about how they talk to men. Again, why is that? Why is it that I never hear any criticisms from people like Nikki Haley in regards to how the left talks about men? And that is one of the biggest things I think is missing from so-called conservative women in politics. Are conservative women that actually stand up for the patriarchy, right? Women that stand up for the traditional role of a man, which is to lead, right? Why don't you ever hear that? Why don't you ever hear Nikki Haley come out here and say, no, we should be embracing more of this type of masculinity. We need more masculinity in this country because masculinity is what built this country. Masculinity is what made this country great. What you saw at Madison Square Garden, the so-called bromance, right? That is what made the country what it is. That's what built New York City. That's what built the arena that they're in. Masculinity built it. So, again, it's just fascinating how, again, so-called conservative women, They just seem to be feminist light, right? That's what they seem to be to me at this point. And it really bothers me because Nikki Haley, if she was going to speak about that rally, okay, if she was going to say anything about it at all, she should have came out and defended the rally and defended the masculinity, defended the bromance, and said, yeah, that's what this country needs. And as women, this is what's beneficial to us. We benefited from this type of masculinity. That's what I want to hear from so-called conservative women in leadership. Conservative women that are leading need to embrace the traditional role of men in masculinity. That's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear conservative women trying to be like men or trying to undermine the traditional role of men in society. Okay, I don't want to hear any of that. What I want to hear is women in leadership leading other women to embrace their traditional role as women. That's what I want to hear, right? So again, I don't have any problems with women in leadership, but you got to understand that there's a specific role, okay, for women in leadership. And again, I think that people are getting confused in regards to what is that supposed to look like, okay? So, you know, again, what's happening here from Nikki Haley is, you know, she's just undermining the Trump campaign. She's trying to have her cake and eat it too, and she's trying to finesse her way to you know, trying to be the GOP nominee in 2028 by playing both sides, right? Basically trying to say that I supported him, but I really didn't support him. And essentially going to tailor her message based on whether or not Trump wins or loses while actively trying to make sure that Trump loses. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.